Oh, good morning and welcome to Ag Talking to Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Maybe they're on your mind too, I don't know. It's been a while since I've done one of these because, well, I've been busy, just busy doing farming stuff that seems to be kind of futile at the moment. Um, yeah, I'll tell you my experiences over the spring and summer since I haven't really done any Ag Talking to Raw since the early spring. At least I don't think I have. Um, it started out really wet. Well, actually, no, it didn't start out really wet. March, it was kind of dry. I was able to spray off some cover crop and put in some alfalfa in March. And then it started to rain. Had some washouts in that alfalfa. Not terrible, but, bad enough that it was annoying. But the alfalfa got in the ground. Alfalfa's done exceptionally well, except for bugs and stuff like that. But, for the most part, it did quite okay. Then it started to rain. We put some soybeans in early, and the early soybeans that I put in, for some reason, have issues we can't seem to get under control, but they're still going to produce. The issues, they turn yellow, just like aphids and spider mites. No thrips, but aphids and spider mites. And then I did use a fungicide on them to kind of try to get them under control. But apparently that they stayed yellow. Yeah, they still produced, but whatever. I fought with these soybeans for months, literally since May until the end of August, like August 18th or so, or 20th, something like that. When was that? Yeah, it was August something or other, just before I went to pick up my pickup truck that I bought back in April. I think maybe it was March or April. It was something like that. I made a deal on a truck that I had when I was 17 years old. And I bought it, and my friend Ken Coates, or 63 Impala two-door, Whale & Wire's Old Iron. You don't know who he is, go check him out. Whale & Wire's Old Iron on YouTube, and you'll see my truck. And he does some really good stuff. He builds rat rods and, grafts trees, pokes sticks into trees to make a living. That's what he does. And anyway, I was in the sprayer every other day, it seemed like, constantly on these beans, constantly dealing with the corn. Uh, Weed control was really tough because the weather, the rain, constantly raining, the bugs and stuff like that. And it really put me behind on haymaking because I'm constantly in that sprayer. And right now we're planting grass and the deer fight, the deer fight that never ends. We can never seem to get a handle on these miserable bastards, because it's relentless. Ugh. This relentless pursuit of crops, so as you know, we were hay for many years, just strictly hay. And then I decided, at the end of the Trump administration, I decided that the input costs were low enough to grow corn that I would grow some corn. And we did, and successfully. We made pretty good money at the corn. And excuse me, I've got dust from unloading hay out of idiot blocks, Gee, I'm not dying. I promise you. Ooh. Anyway, I made idiot blocks and I have dust inhalation issues, even though I was on the wagon. But anyways, we're planting hay back into a farm that was soybeans. We had soybeans on it last year, and then there was a cover crop applied. And then I terminated the cover crop, put the soybeans in, and the deer found that 60 or so acres of ground and annihilated it. Went back in to spray it again back in August before I left. I went down there and blindly sprayed it. And at that point, the beans were about 1.5 feet tall, which I was like, geez, these things are behind. What the hell's going on? Didn't have an issue with deer last year there. Not one problem. So I'm like, what the heck is wrong with these soybeans? And then I got out of the tractor and looked, and they were munched off at about, they had been munched off. The best way to find out if you got deer damage is just take your hand and do this, and if it pokes you, then you know that it's been bitten off if you can't see too well. So it's like, all right, what do we do here if we've got all these deer that are just chewing my soybeans off? So I sprayed it anyway because I have to keep the weeds under control. And I figured it had rained shortly thereafter. And I thought, well, okay, we got the rain. Maybe these things will come around enough and I'll get 20, 30 bushels off of them anyway. Got back from my trip, picking up that truck, and went down there. And now there's no soybeans. Like, they went from 1.5 feet tall to this tall, 3 to 6 inches tall. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to go up in there. So we loaded up the grain drill with Kentucky 31, and I sent my nephew down to plant this grass seed into these soybeans. He got about, I don't know, I think he did 3.5 or 4 fields before it rained last night, which thankfully it rained. He'll finish up today there. But, and he's like, I said, so what do the beans look like in the back? He says, the tallest soybean I've seen is 6 inches tall. So we've been fighting the deer. There's another farm that my parents have, 2 farms that my parents have been going and defending. They go down there and they chase them off with the truck, and they just drive in the field now and it gets the deer moving. But the truck, and then they've got radios. My deer scaring machines worked for a while, but then they got used to them, which I kind of suspected. The whole point in those was to put them out there, let the beans get up tall enough that they could not get ahead of them, and then, that would be it. Well, there were 60, 70 deer on a 18-acre field. What do you do with that? How do you combat that? Well, you can't. You can only just go in there. I mean, we used fireworks. We used airplanes with fireworks on them. We did all kinds of stuff to no avail. So there's, geez, how many farms are there that were just really having a hard? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 different farms. 2 are completely annihilated. And they're just getting hay put back into them because there's just no way in hell that I'm going to be able to. There's no way in hell I'm going to be able to catch up to this stuff. It's not going to happen. There's just no way that that I'm going to do anything there. Got fields of corn. I got what do I have? 360 acres of corn. 360 acres of corn, and of those 360 acres of corn, there's 360 acres of corn that have been affected by deer. Now, as crazy as this sounds, we did not have a deer problem like this. I don't know where these deer have come from. It's like somebody went out, got semi-loads of deer, brought them to New Jersey, and dumped them off. And the bucks have racks on them like you've got no idea. I've never seen such incredible racks on white-tailed deer as I've seen this year. It's crazy. So, I don't know. I got back from my trip, and my parents, I was in constant contact with my parents, and they're like, man, we're getting ahead of them, but it's just, these beans need 3 months to finish out. I was like, those beans are never going to finish out. Just keep them at bay up there, and, if they can contain them to a corner of that field, that 18-acre field, and say half the field is completely annihilated and the other half of the field produces 10 to 15 bushels, at least I'll get my seed back out of it, right? And then there's another field that they never went on to, that the deer have they've taken half of that field as well. That's a 9-acre field, so, so 4.5 acres of that field are just, they're only going to produce 10 to 15 bushels. But I just got back and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start planting hay now. And that's it. I'm quitting. I'm quitting this. There's just no way that you can support the amount of deer that are on these fields and still make a living. And I guess I can go into why. Years ago, it was, yeah, so the deer ate them. You made 35, 40 bushels. We're in that marginal area anyway, 35, 40 bushels. You could still eke out a living out of it. We did a lot of shooting of deer back then. And honestly, didn't make any difference. I don't think we did. Probably just prolonged the inevitable. And but now, with the profit margins so thin that you need to have every bushel that you can possibly produce off of every acre that you plant in order to break even, or at a minor loss in the crop, you have to do that. So last year I did okay on soybeans. I did not so good on corn. That's why I reduced the number of acres of corn and increased the number of acres of soybeans. The wheat was terrible because last fall we didn't have the rain to get it to sprout, germinate until late November. Late November sprouted wheat does not produce any quality of wheat. I mean, we're talking 25, 30 bushel wheat. That was it. And, barely paid for the fuel that I put through the combine, or the wear and tear that I put through the combine through. And what a pain in the ass. I had to spray the wheat because when you have a thin wheat stand, you have foxtail and other weeds that decide that they're going to come through. And the only thing you can spray the wheat with is glyphosate. You used to be able to use Gramoxone. Gramoxone you can't use because if you're going to sell that wheat and it comes back with Gramoxone in it, your ass is grass. And I didn't even buy Gramoxone, so it doesn't matter. I used Roundup to terminate that, the green that was coming up through it. And even that doesn't work as good as it used to. It kills all the grasses. That was fine, but there's broadleaf weeds that it just struggles on. And you can't add 2,4-D, and you can't add anything else that would actually smoke those weeds. So it was a struggle to get the little bit of wheat that I had off. And it's a whole nother struggle to get rid of that wheat, because when you have low volume wheat, low bushels to the acre wheat, you then have low test weights on your wheat. The quality of the wheat is okay, but I have to take it to a cleaner guy, a guy that cleans wheat, to get it through the cleaner so that I can get it to the flour mill. And the flour mill is causing me a whole bunch of problems. There's a whole bunch of problems. They're being a pain in the ass. They are, how should I say it? I think they're being really nitpicky. My moisture tester said 12%, 12.2 or 12.4%. The feed mill says my wheat was 12.2, 12.5%, but the flour mill says that my wheat was 15.5%, which doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, and the seed cleaner guy, he said that the wheat was only 12.5, 13%. That's what he said. So whose moisture tester's broken? So, and then they said that I had bugs in it, which there were no bugs. The seed cleaner guy says there's no bugs. He says even if there was bugs, we clean the bugs out of it, and then there's no bugs. He says the only way that there's bugs in it is if the trailer that came from the feed mill had bugs in it, and they tested the trailer with the bugs in it came from the feed truck. Whatever. Oh, it's been a struggle. So, I don't know. I got back and I decided, you know what? I'm going to get through this year. I'm going to get rid of the corn. I'm going to combine the corn. I'm going to combine the soybeans. I'm not going to plant wheat. And I am going to sell the combine. I'm going to sell the combine. There's no point. I can't feed these deer. I can't fight this bug deal. I can't fight all this fight and make a living. Every time I start up that tractor and sprayer, it's costing me for the tank of spray. It's costing me for the fuel and the wear and the tear on the tractor. It's costing me time. So if I park the sprayer, when I get rid of do no more row crops, which is fine. I don't care. The price sucks right now anyway. That was the third thing, is the price. Corn. What is corn? You know what? I may as well find out what corn is in my area. And you guys may say, oh, well, that's good. You're getting good money for that corn. Well, you're probably right. The problem is, I got to drive that corn. Super socks. Hold on. Here we are. Let me get this grain price. Grain markets and reports. Okay, so corn. December corn. 422. September corn is 402. The average, the high was 402, 422, 4. So it really didn't, it didn't change. So I don't know what they're paying. They're not even showing what they're paying, are they, today? No. Oh, wait, there it is. They don't have their commodities up. November beans. November beans, $9.96. December corn is what they're paying, $4.58. So they're paying cash price. They're running $4.58. $4.58 a bushel. Well, that's not cutting it, man. Beans are down right now. I mean, beans. $9.96, not even $10. Beans are the cheaper option if you can get the deer and the bugs out of them. You know, they're the easier option. I don't sell my beans through them too often because I can get more money at the port, and it's cheaper for me to go to the port because the port goes to China, but the port is half the distance. It's 52 miles for me to go from home here to the port. It is exactly 99.8 miles to go from here to the feed mill. So I can go to the port with my beans and be back in the time that it takes me to drive to the feed mill and drop my load, not back. So in the time it takes me to go to the port and back, I'm only just unloading at the feed mill. So I save on fuel and I save on time and I save just fuel and time, which makes it more productive for me. Yeah. So what do you do? You know, at $4.98, right? Wasn't that what I said corn was? $4.58. $4.58 for corn. For me to drive that 100 miles, or hire somebody to drive that 100 miles, it's $5.50 a mile to do that. So that's taking off of that load, every load that guy takes. He only charges me to deliver, doesn't charge me to come back. He's charging me $5.50. It's $550 every load for him to, if I hire it. If I do it myself, cut it in half. You know, diesel fuel. The input costs are just through the roof. Diesel fuel that used to be, you know, under Donald Trump's first administration, $1.42 for off-road fuel, $1.62 for off-road fuel. We're still we're at $3 a gallon now for off-road fuel. On-road fuel is $4 and some cents here, $3.89 or something like that here, and I've seen it over $4 for diesel fuel here. If you go up to Route 78, they're $4.38 or $39.9, you know, $3.40, $4.40 a gallon for road fuel. So how much are we now making, you know, with the highest input costs ever? Glyphosate is still higher than it's been in years, lower than it was in 2021. I mean, we took glyphosate that was $8.25 a gallon and then we had to pay 60 some dollars a gallon for it because of COVID. Yeah, because of the pandemic. 60 some dollars a gallon for that stuff, and we needed a fair amount of it. Plus the Bicep 2 Magnum, the the Prowl, the whatever we were putting down, everything was way more expensive, and the price just did not reflect. They said that it did, right? Oh yeah, well you're getting the highest grain prices ever. Well, when it's costing you in some cases 6 times, 5 times, let's just say 5 times, $62, $8.25 a gallon for glyphosate. Now it's $6 and $662. Let's just say 5 times. 5 times the what it would normally cost you to grow that crop. Your equipment costs through the roof. Parts quadrupled, doubled in some cases, and quadrupled in others. So corn at $7 a bushel back in 2021, a lot of guys thought they were getting rich. And instead of taking this pen and pushing it across the paper, they just blindly went out and bought new planters and stuff like that. It didn't pencil out. Over the long term, maybe it did, but I don't think so, because I don't think anybody ever expected the price of beans to drop down below $10 again, especially when we were getting 16, 14, $16 a bushel. You look at, and the price of fuel isn't where it should be. It's Obama era pricing. And, the Biden era was higher, but holy shit. So you've got all these inputs, and now we're at $4.58 a bushel for corn, and under, $9.96 a bushel for soybeans. But a used combine, or even new equipment, a new combine's over $1 million, and then you got to buy the heads on a John Deere. If you buy a Case or a New Holland, you can get the heads and the, for the second largest combines out there, not that you want them, or anybody can afford them, you're looking at $1 million. No matter what, you're looking at $1 million. And then, of course, you run into the big problem, hauling the grain away from that $1 million combine. So you need a bigger tractor to pull a bigger grain cart, to buy another semi, and another hopper trailer to haul cheaper corn than you've ever grown in your entire life to a market that is unstable. I've seen a couple of people that are buying, Eastern Shore Farmer, he bought a grain cart, which, that's fine. He bought a reasonable sized grain cart. It's going to fit his operation, but it'll save him time. He'll be able to get his crop off faster. But the reality is, you're getting less for your grain. You're getting losses grain. Now I don't know how his growing season has been. I haven't seen any videos where he's highlighting his corn. He is combining now. I haven't had time to watch YouTube, so if he's posted something, then it's probably it's up there, and he's probably doing pretty good. Because last year he had a really dry year. He was ready to kick it in, throw in the towel, and he pulled off some pretty amazing yields because he got some late summer rain. We had early rain, and then the faucet got shut off, and it's really dry. I haven't looked. We had a couple of showers go through later on last night, and into the morning. So hopefully we got well over an inch. Last night we had 7/10 of an inch, which, when it gets this dry and this late with soybeans, it's not really going to do much. Maybe finish filling out some pods, but the 7/10 doesn't get me excited. We need 2 inches, and over the course of a couple of days, 3 inches would be great. But we'll just go back into making hay. Now, we are supposed to get rain on tomorrow. Let me take a look at my Weather Underground and see if that is... Oh, yeah. It actually has lengthened out now, and it looks like we're going to get... Let's see if we can get that. See that? So that's Saturday into Sunday. So Saturday, all night Saturday, that would be great. It's looking like it's going to be well over an inch. So that'll help my corn. I should go up and look at it today, but I've got some things I got to do this morning. But the question is this: why is corn and soybeans so low? Have we overproduced? I don't know. I just drove from New Jersey to Washington State and back again, taking two different routes. The first route was 94 across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota. The second route was Route 90, 212, back to 90, all the way across Wyoming and some of Wyoming and South Dakota. Then we went into Iowa and through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. There's issues in every state that I saw. There was what looked like some preventive planting in western Iowa. I don't know if that's true or whether they just got the outside rounds done. I saw wind damage in western Iowa. I'm sure Nebraska's got its issues as well because eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, same kind of a thing. It gets ripplier out there in Nebraska. Like when the Great Flood happened, that it was all washboard there. So it just it makes sense that eastern Nebraska's got those issues. I don't know what Kansas has got. I heard they got a bumper crop of corn, but Kansas has never been a great corn growing state. Kentucky is, but Kansas isn't. And here she comes. And there she goes. Look at that, wagging her tail. She's a bad girl. Ain't you bad? Now, she's going to say her devotional prayer this morning while I'm talking to you. But anyway, there's issues across every state. Looks like Minnesota has had wet weather, then dry weather. I don't know. I haven't followed along with anybody up in Minnesota. I know a millennial farmer. Like I said, I haven't watched any YouTube videos, and you can see that the lack of me uploading videos has been because I've been working so hard. And I feel like all my work this year is going out the window. Like everything that I've done all summer long has been futile. I don't know. I have a theory as to why grain prices are down. I don't think it's because of overproduction. I don't think it's because of Donald Trump's tariffs, like this idiot that I know is going to show up and make a bunch of stupid comments. But actually, Donald Trump's tariffs are helping with the export of grain because that's part of these trade deals that he is signing and getting done through the use of these tariffs that, everybody seems to think is killing U.S. farmers. Maybe on some things. But, excuse me. But on other things, it's not, and people are stupid about the tariffs, It's like they go out and they buy a $110 pair of Nike sneakers and they think that 50% tariff is going to add another $50-$60 to their pair of sneakers. The tariff is on the cost of, or the value of that item, not the retail value, the wholesale value of the item, or the build price of those items. So let's just say this iPhone, right? I think this is a 13. They want $1,000 for it. Well, it's not going to cost me, because it's coming from China, it's not going to cost me $1,500 or $500 more because of the tariff. There's probably $20 worth of components in here, in this thing, right? It's made in China. They are. It's an American company, but they opted to use slave labor to put these things together, so that's what you get. So just say the thing costs $20 to put together. Not the labor. The labor's, you don't get tariffed on the labor. You get tariffed on the components that it takes to build, that are in this, the value of what is in this little idiot box that we all love so much. So it's $20. You get a 50% tariff on $20, right? It's $30 for the phone. So I use Verizon. So Verizon This Verizon phone that I paid, I think, $1,100 for. Just call it $1,000. $1,000 for this thing. You add $10 to this price of this thing, you're gonna notice it. I mean, you go to McDonald's with you and your wife, you're costing more than the $20. You can't even go to McDonald's or Burger King and eat that shit food for what the increased price is on this lovely item here. Nike shoes, $5 a pair. You're going to see a $7.50 for that pair of shoes. You're going to notice that when you're shelling out your bills. Oh, Donald Trump and his tariffs. Oh, my God. It's going to cost me twice as much for this pair of shoes. They should only be $50. I agree. The price of shoes should be, you know, if it costs $5 for the pair of Nike Air Jordans or whatever the hell they are now, $5 to produce that pair of shoes, I think a fair price would be $12.50, right? But no. We're going to build factories and shit, which is fine. I get it. $50. I think a $50 pair of Nike shoes would be great. That would be great. Everybody's making money at that. I mean, a lot of money. You don't see the fancy commercials on TV for free. You know, you're paying for that. You know, you don't pay for basketball stars $1 million contracts to, and I don't even know who the basketball stars are because I never really watched it on TV or anything. I knew Michael Jordan because when I was in high school, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and there was a short little guy, and Larry Bird, and a couple other players that were really, big when I was a kid. And I never watched basketball, but there were kids that did, and they wore their merchandise, the merchandise, Nike this and Nike that, and Nike Air, and they had these little air cushions inside, and they would poke. I never forget taking a pen and stabbing Ray Collins' freaking Nike shoe because that guy was a dick. He's grown up now. But anyway, you ruined my shoe. It's a $50 pair of shoes. So back then they were like $50, and we were all like, "Oh my God, can't afford that." But his parents did well, so he was able to afford that. His parents were able to afford that for him. And I wonder what he's doing now. Ray Collins. I think there was another friend of mine, Mike Bohensky, and him were friends. And I wonder if Mike. I heard that Mike had died. I don't know. I know he gave some girl herpes. At least that's what she said. I was like, holy fuck. But I don't know. There's a few people out there that I went to school with, quite a few that are dead now. I should look them up. But Facebook is a wonderful place. And I did look up Ray Collins years ago, but, is what it is. So anyway, we've got this stuff. So it's not the tariffs, it's not the tariffs. My theory on why corn and soybeans are low at this point is because the cost of poultry. Hey, hon, how much are eggs? Yeah, I know, but how much are they?
Usually Costco sells them for a dozen and a half, or I'm not mistaken, $4.09 or $4.39, something like that.
Okay, so $4.39 for eggs, for a dozen and a half of eggs.
Half a dozen.
A dozen and a half or half a dozen?
A dozen and a half.
Okay, dozen and a half. Just say $4.50. Why not? For gits and shiggles. $4.50. So what are we looking at? $3 a dozen or so? 3 something a dozen? It was over 7 for eggs, right? That was due to Joe Biden's Department of Agriculture wanting you to kill off layers. I don't know what the point in that was. Claimed bird flu, but I guess bird flu only affected layer hens instead of broilers. Don't know. Beef price, very expensive right now. You buy beef, you're paying a premium for it. So how do you get the price of poultry, pork, and beef down? Well, it costs money to feed them sons of bitches, right? And if corn and soybeans are $16 and $6 a bushel, 16 for beans and $6.50 or whatever. $6.50 would be a beautiful price right now for corn. $16 would be an awesome price for soybeans right now. But if we do that, then the beef price, the poultry price, and the pork price will be higher. And if you're not a farmer and you don't understand what I'm talking about, is people don't eat corn from the field. They don't eat soybeans from the field. They don't eat these products that we produce, these raw products. Wheat you do in bread, but bread's expensive anyway. Rice, I don't know. Has rice gone up?
No.
Rice has stayed the same. So if you want to replace bread with rice, you can do that, but it doesn't taste very good. It doesn't hold together in a sandwich, you know. But anyway, wheat price was up at the beginning of the Ukraine war. Right now it's like $5, $5.30, something like that. It's in that range for a bushel, which is what, 60 pounds, 60-pound bushel of wheat. So what, I got that back in the 90s at times. $4 and some cents a bushel for wheat. We grew wheat. Now we call it poverty grass. Really poverty grass this year because it just, and we can coin one happy farmer for that. Or Jeff Ramond. He was the one that I heard poverty grass from, and I agree with him. That's why I will not be growing it anymore. And it's just the end of it. I talked to a woman yesterday, and she says, I didn't grow wheat. Me and my husband did not grow wheat this year, and thankfully, because it was just a terrible fall, and it would have sprouted anyway. And the year before, we got hammered on it. And, you know, with wheat, we got to fight the geese, and not the deer so much, but the geese. The freaking geese are the worst. So, but anyway, my thoughts and theories are that our government, our lovely U.S. Department of Agriculture, and other entities around the world, world markets, they want to get that price of beef down, the price of poultry down, the price of pork down, because those are the things that eat the corn and the soybeans and what other grains that we produce, milo or not milo, but grain sorghum and things like that. Sorghum and corn are very similar in their composition, you know, feed value. I think sorghum is a little higher digestibility than corn, but it's about the same. It's a starch. So there you are. We've got that. What else is there? So that's just it. They want to drive those protein prices down for John Q. Public, and that's why the price of grain is down. Milk, they're trying to get that down to $13 a hundred. There's just no $13 a hundred. I mean, come on. These guys we quit milking cows because it was $13 a hundred. We got $1,300 a hundred back in 1981 when my grandfather died. We were getting $13 a hundred. We got $9 a hundred for most of the early 2000s, $10 a hundred, and once in a while it would get up to 15, 16, and then it would drop back down to 10, 9, and then we would get an average over the course of the year of 2 cents a hundred raise. Right? Wasn't that wonderful? Well, price of fuel, price of equipment, price of electricity, price of labor, price of everything went through the roof. We got a 2 cent raise over the course of that year. This past year, I guess it was up in the 20s, 100. This past year or so, maybe last year, I don't know. I have a friend that's a dairy farmer, and he says, yeah, well, they'll have it down to $13 again, he says, and we'll be right back in the same boat we were before this. But he's making ice cream and stuff like that, and so he's making out better than most are, and he sells in his store here. But it is what it is. And, it's just very disheartening that our government, yes, it is the Trump administration, but it is what it is. There's this need to drive the price of food down so that the people in the country don't get upset. Remember when eggs hit $7 and people were freaking out? There you go. Mushrooms, another one. As the economy failed through the Biden years, the mushroom sales plummeted. And that has hit me really hard because we should be getting $130 to $140 a ton for our hay in order to make up for the equipment costs, the fuel costs, the spray costs to produce the product that I've produced for over 25 years. And we're at 100, and I won't even tell you what it is because it disgusts me. Some guys are getting $100 a ton. Some guys are getting a little more than that. And, let's just say $105 a ton is what we're getting. $105 a ton doesn't warrant $650 nitrogen per ton of urea. Let's just use urea because most people use urea. It's for $380 or $400 a ton for liquid. I didn't use liquid this year. I used some urea on the farms that I felt would produce the best, and that's what I used. I didn't put fertilizer on a vast majority of the hay because it just wouldn't have paid. 2,4-D has made a jump. Used to get it for $12 to $15 a gallon. Now it's 22, I think is what it was. So it's more expensive. So when you're not making that money in this business, you're not able to do the things you want to do, which is keep the weeds out of it. You want to put fertilizer down. I've went to an alternative fertilizer source that I've used for over 20 years, but I'm relying more heavily on that than I would be the liquid or the urea. But Jesus, Pete, man, there's just no meat left on the bone for anybody. And it's sad. It is really quite sad because why not? Why is it that the American farmer takes the beating? The world farmer. We shouldn't even say the American farmer because everybody's in the same. The world farmer takes the beating when things get a little oblonged or out of control. I mean, you got communist countries like China and Cuba and things like that, that if price of these things get too high, they just starve their people. You don't see fat people in China. You don't, when things get tight, you don't see fat people in Cuba. I'm sure there's a few other. North Korea, I don't think there's a fat person. Oh, there's only one fat person in North Korea, and that's Kim Jong-un, because he's fat. You see anybody else fat? Or maybe some of his family members are fat, but the people aren't fat because they're half starved to death. It's a coal region, and they just break themselves in halves every day to produce coal to sell to China or whoever they're selling to fund their nuclear program. Hell, we're not going to feed our people. We'll let them die and starve. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I think that this is all just a low pricing now. Get farmers, get the low hanging fruit that have no storage, have no way to store their grain. They can take it to an elevator someplace and store it there and pay astronomical amounts in hopes that it'll jump $1 a bushel on either crop to take up the 35 cents. I think it's 35 cents for the first 3 months. And then it's 5 cents a month after that for storage on grain. At least that's what I think that's what it was. I never did it. I always had enough storage, and then I would sell what I didn't store that way, and then sell throughout the year out of the bin. If I ran out of money, I would just take a load of corn or take a load of soybeans. That's what we did. But this year, I think if you got storage and you can hold on to it, maybe you'll make out, because there's no way that this can hold up. There's no way that this can hold up. And the money that you're going to get from the Farm Service Agency, they're going to give you a big paycheck. All the non-farmers are saying, you're subsidized. You're going to get all this money. It's nothing. It's nothing. $30,000 to a $60,000 income home is a lot of money. To a farm where you got $1.5 million on the line all the time, $1.5 million on the line all the time, $30,000 it's in your back. It's pocket money to a farmer, because a big farmer, a big enough farmer, family farm, you just say $1.5 million. That's what it costs to do 4,000 acres for me. And when, that's what it is. And the interest, that's another thing. The interest in the Trump years was 2 point whatever percent. The interest today is 7, 8, 9, depending on where you're at. That hasn't come down. So why Donald Trump is trying to get the Fed to drop this interest rate, because it's ridiculous. They are fleecing. The Fed has dropped it to other countries, or whatever the hell it is. The lending, what they lend. I don't know how the Federal Reserve works. It's not a part of the government. It's not our government. It's a private bank that we borrow from. That's the U.S. and other countries around the world. So other countries have gotten their interest rates dropped, but the United States hasn't. And it's costing us billions of dollars or trillions of dollars or whatever the hell it is every year, just in insurance or just in interest rates. It's like farmers, $1.5 million on a note at 2.5%. It's doable. You can do it when the prices are pretty decent. But 9%, you're treading water or dying or drowning, and a lot of us are drowning. I can say that I'm one of them at that high of an interest rate. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous because cash flow is limited. Crops around are good enough that you're not going to collect crop insurance, but they're not good enough to at low pricing to get above what you've got into it. So, and it's borrow money on money that's now interest. You're basically borrowing money to pay the interest payment to get out from under this thing, and there's no cure in sight from what I can see. Maybe eventually, I don't know, maybe it'll be a year, maybe it'll be 2 years before things get under control. Maybe, who knows? You can't go into the beef business because that's what they want you to do. Because about the time that the animals that you buy now, the feeder calves that you buy now, or the bottle calves you buy now that you spend all that time and money to get to slaughter weight, by the time those 1,800-pound animals or whatever the heck you're going to sell them at, not 1,800 pounds, 18-month-old animals that are, say, 11, 12, 1,500 pounds. I don't know what the heck that weight is. I was dairyman, so 1,100-pound cow is a pretty good-sized cow. But a beef cow, I imagine they get to 14, 15, 1,600 pounds, and you could sell them that way. Optimal weight, I do believe, is around 900 pounds, because I'm not in the beef business. But by the time you take that bottle calf to 900 pounds, you're about 18 months, 16, 18 months, depending on your feeding program. And the price is going to drop out from under you. And there you're going to be like, well, I paid $1,000 for this bottle calf or $800 for this bottle calf, and now it's only worth, $1,800, and I just spent a year and a half making it this big, and now the price is, $200 per hundredweight or whatever it is, or $2 a pound instead of $4 a pound, or $4.50 a pound. Unless you're selling it privately, and then that's a whole nother thing, because some people I don't want the chuck, and I don't want the rump, I don't want this, I don't want that. You're better off selling the cow, selling your animal as a whole, and have them, the people you're selling the animal for, choose a slaughterhouse and the cuts that they want, and then they get the whole animal, not half, not a quarter, the whole effing thing. So that's just, I know the guy that told me that that's how he's doing it, and it sounded like a wonderful idea at $4.50 a pound hanging weight. I think he's cutting himself short. I think he should be at $4 a pound live weight, and then, because hanging weight, take all that skin, the guts, and the bones out of it, you don't get nearly as much, but it's his deal. That's what he wants to do. But anyhow, with that being said, I got to get dressed and get some things done because I'm in my underwear, believe it or not. Yay! And get down the road. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you beef farmers, my suggestion to you is to sell your herds. Sell them. Get them out of there. You got the highest price you're ever going to get in your career right now. Sell them out. Cull the cullable. Save your youngest heifers, the heifers that you're going to use for breeding, good bull, and get rid of, say, 75% of your beef as soon as you can. That'll drive the price down, and it will ensure in a year or so that you're going to have a good price again, because there's guys saying, oh, it could go higher. I'm going to build my herd. I can grow higher. Well, do it now. Dump it. Get it out. The price is going to come down a little bit. But then when everybody's culled their animals off and the price drops, then it's going to have to come back up again, because nobody's going to be wanting to sell their animals again because they won't have them. And it may give a young guy a chance to get in with 10, 15 animals and start his business if that's what they want to do. But whatever. Whatever it is. So enjoy. Hope you had a great day, and I hope you listened to this and thought this guy's a jackass, and I don't ever want to hear his voice again, and unsubscribe from me, because that's what you want to do, really, because I like Donald Trump, and that'll do every lefty in right now. I love Donald Trump. I think he's a great president. So, there's things that a president does that you love or like that you don't like, and you just have to come to the understanding that everybody doesn't get everything that they want. And that's just the fact.